Architecture Department. I'd like to extend a special welcome tonight to the Executive Board of the Indiana chapter of ASLA. And to introduce our guest tonight, I'll turn the mic over to Ed Curtin, who's the current president of the Indiana chapter and is with HNTV in Indianapolis.
To me, it's a real honor to get to introduce Deb tonight. I had a great opportunity in for real treat tonight. Deb will do a wonderful job. I had a great opportunity to spend probably about an hour and a half with her on Friday. We talked about all kinds of stuff. And you know, if you don't know, she is so busy. You're very fortunate to have her here tonight. She's really got a lot of things going on. And it's doing a really tremendous job as president. She's really taking a lot of initiative to address concerns of membership and is doing a very good job. Deb is currently, she has a Master of Science in Biology from Kansas University. She has a Master of Landscape Architecture from the University of Illinois. She's registered in 6 states as a landscape architect. She is currently head of the JJR office down in Texas. She's had her own firm. She's done a tremendous amount of things. You're going to be in for a real treat. She has been greatly involved in ASLA, as you all know. She's now our national president, and I think we're all very fortunate to have her here tonight. So thank you very much. Turn it over to you.
It's a real pleasure to be here. My first test is going to be getting this. I have to find the right knot in the thing. Smash that right in. As Ed said, I'm now the national president, and I understand that you have had the privilege of working with Claire Bennett also at ASLA national president, and you probably knew her as my staff knows me. She was probably Claire who, when she was here, I'm Deb who in my office. I try to keep ASLA restricted to about 50% of my time. The problem is it's not a nice clean 50%, like in the mornings I'll do ASLA, in the afternoons I'll do my JJR work. It's usually, there's a phone call, it's ASLA, I need you to fax this right now, do it. Oh, Deb, somebody walks in my office, and what are we going to do about this meeting that we're having on Friday? And then there's another ASLA call, on and on it goes. Such is my life this year, and it's one of those things that I certainly wouldn't change it for anything, and I'm enjoying it immensely. I'm absolutely thrilled that Dallas-Fort Worth, where I'm based, has a great airport, because without it I couldn't do half of what I flying around that I do to go and do these visits, which are very important. I understand several of you have been out to Lavash at San Luis Obispo in the past week or so, and another group of you have been to the ASLA legislative fly-in pack in Washington, D.C. So I've had an opportunity to see some of you in the fly-in event. Some of you have seen me several years ago at Lavash when it was at Kansas State. So what I've done today is I've wrapped up a slide tray of 4 projects that we have done at JJR within the past 3 years. Those of you that have seen pieces of them before, there are new chapters to those, so it is not at all the same slideshow that you've seen before. But the reason I chose the 4 projects that I did is I think that they are illustrative of the types of work that you will be working on when you graduate, the types of challenges and projects that you will be facing. They each are demanding the skills, the speed, and the magnitude of the work. And so with that, why don't we go ahead and get started with the carousel. And I understand I've got the control button here. There's the widget. There we go. Being here at Ball State, I think most of you are probably familiar with Johnson & Johnson & White because it's fairly predominant in the upper Midwest. We are a firm of about 100 landscape architects, planners, environmental scientists, handful of civil engineers, as you see here in this list of services that we have. I will tell you what is most interesting about this particular chart is that the first three names that are on there was the three things that the firm was originally founded by the founding principals, Carl Johnson, Bill Johnson, and Clarence Roy. That was planning, landscape architecture, and urban design. What has come on strongly within the past 5 years are the latter three. Environmental planning and management, which I would say right now it accounts for about 1/3 of our total business. Waterfront planning and design, and civil engineering, which is largely in support of the waterfront planning and design. We have not gone out and marketed civil engineering as its own standalone discipline. So we still are a primarily landscape architectural-led firm. I will also tell you that we have 80 folks up in Ann Arbor, which is our home office. There are 10 of us down in Dallas. We've had more, but we've kind of had a couple battle through some of these economic times, and me being gone has not helped. And then we have an additional 10 in Chicago, and we have a brand new studio in Madison, Wisconsin. So the firm still is, like I said, largely centered in the upper Midwest. I usually throw this slide in because it really illustrates how we work at JJR. This is fairly typical for what you'll see. I hope we're doing better in getting more women at the table. It is not just men at the table any longer. However, you do see this kind of collaborative work experience, pins, poking, and jabbing on a large common work table, big graphics array up behind you on the wall. This is all very typical. I think JJR has evolved as part of this corporate history, its own graphic style and way of working. And this picture really was one that captured it best. The first project I want to go into is the Ellis County Land Use and Infrastructure Plan in association with the Superconducting Super Collider. It's the title that has no ending. This slide explains about as best as I can the whole theory behind the superconducting super collider. I cannot tell you what it does. The Big Bang Theory in a tunnel under the ground that has great scientific import. This is something that is becoming and has become each and every year that it's been up for funding, more and more under fire by the Senate and Houses. For the type of scientific project that, and the money that it takes, which is millions and millions of dollars. The thing that was most interesting is that this thing landed in Ellis County, Texas. And this is what Ellis County looks like, and what you see is this ring, and it looks like a big oval, and we'll have a picture of it in a minute, of where some of these interaction points and some of the clusters were going to be. So this very scientific ring was being overlaid onto this very rural environment. This was the typical activity that one saw in Ellis County. They're very proud of their rural heritage. They wish to keep it, and they really didn't know what this big machine was going to do to them. As a result, our firm was one of 3 in a competition to go after the land use plan. This would be for the entire county of Ellis County. Now what you see here is Ellis County is, I'll find my laser wonderlight here. I can get all these machines operating in one wheel. This is Ellis County right here. That's the outline of Ellis County. This is Dallas and Fort Worth, and this is the main metroplex. And then here's the rig as it sits there. Now, Ellis County is about 900 square miles, and there is, in the state of Texas, there is no legislation, enabling legislation, which allows county-wide land use planning. Now, you may think that that's very strange, and indeed some of us that live and practice there think it's very strange also, but in Western states, states where property rights are held very dear, the less government regulation, better, and so therefore we do not have that. When the superconducting supercollider came to Ellis County, they said they put the enabling legislation in place for just that county to control the growth around the ring. They looked at other facilities in other parts of the country, Fairleigh Labs in Chicago and so on, and they looked at what grew up around it, and they said that is not good, and that is not the way we want our scientific community or we the residents to deal with growth and uncontrolled growth. So our firm competed. We were the only landscape architecturally led firm, and we won the job to do this countywide land use plan. Here is a whole little wonderful pixels of land use. You can see the farmlands and things like this if you're lucky enough to read the legend over there in order to see what the mosaic is. And the green really is open space over into the farmlands. The thing that was interesting, and I will also point out to you, this is the last project that we will probably ever do not on a computer. This was about 3 years ago when this got started. We priced doing all of this on GIS, which makes wonderful logical sense. The price was at that point quite high, and the client declined to do that. So as a result, we had folks coloring these little pixels, which was not necessarily the most gratifying work, but nonetheless needs to be done. We also came up with a team structure here, and you can start to see how we have to build these projects. This is not just Johnson, Johnson, and Roy. We had folks that were involved. This is like our land use group. Here's transportation over here. Here's infrastructure planning, environmental monitoring, policies and zoning, fiscal impact analysis. And we had a team member to deal with every single one of those issues. It took what we call blockbuster teams or mega teams to do this and win this job. Likewise, we had to think politically what it was going to take to get it and how to balance where those firms were located. Why I'm telling you this is that you all need to understand work just doesn't walk in the door. You have to work very hard for it. You have to compete very hard for it. And you have to think strategically what is the best way that you can get it. And just having good qualifications and having good ideas doesn't mean that you get the job. And so that's the school of hard knocks part there. We also came up with a process which is becoming, again, more and more important in how you're getting from point A to point B for the client, particularly in very complex projects. So we start out over here with visions, with people, the land, and how we walk through inventories, goals, objectives, clear on through to the end so that we come up with a product, and how we're involving time, phases, what our products are going to be for each and every one of these things. Because it's important before you start the job that you know exactly how you're going to do it, because the next piece when you're successful in winning the job is you have to give them a scope and an estimate for how you're going to accomplish that. So this is part of our roadmap in getting there. We did get some satellite imagery to help us, and indeed this was this pixel was on an 80 mile, no, it was less than that, 80-foot grid is what that came down to. Very tight. I mean, the detail that is coming through today on satellite imagery is phenomenal. In fact, I think the next one even tells you as it gets down. And all we have to do is ground truth it. If we have something that we're unclear about, that doesn't look right, that doesn't make sense, we can send somebody out in the field to ground truth it and correct the mapping. And that proved to be very good for us. For this 900 square miles. Here you can easily see water bodies. You can also see some of the city areas that are there, the north areas. And here's a legend for that very map. So you can see that indeed you can get quite a bit of detail, orchards, shrub, mixed forest, forested wetland, and so on in your color array. So actually this is quite good and detailed information. Well, what did we do with it? Well, we stood back and we did some very preliminary concepts. And then you can see down here, this particular title was Ecotopia. We decided just to take some really broad approaches to what if the environment was the primary guiding force to this land use plan. So that became Ecotopia. We also had a Silicon Prairie scenario, and we had an Agrotopia scenario. And when you look at this, what you can really see is a lot of the green open space preservation. And the yellow is the cities, what is preserved here with this plan. This is the Agrotopia, and you can see the difference in the green. All that's really left are the actual streamways, as opposed to the big agricultural areas. So we just said, well, agriculture's king. Let's call it as such. What would the land use plan look like? And out of that, we came up with a preliminary comprehensive plan after taking those alternatives around to a number of public meetings all around the county. And in fact, by the time this process was done, there were over 500 meetings that were held with various publics. The other thing we did once the preliminary plan was through, we started testing out some of our concepts because the end product was a manual. It was not a plan, it was not a drawing, even though that's what you'll see here. It was a zoning regulation. It was something that would be in place. So we had to ask ourselves, well, if we were to develop this parcel, what would it look like according to our regulations, according to setback lines, things like that. We had to line it up. If I wanted to do it sideways, if I wanted to set it over here on the property, how could I do it and what would it look like? So there was a lot of testing of everything that has to occur. And even though this doesn't show up very well, but each and every one of these maps, we had to specifically draw the lines of where the different categories of zoning would be, so that if you really wanted to know about your house or your property, you could go in and look at these maps and clearly see where the lines were. And this was, again, an important tool in the public acceptance of the plan. And last but not least, this is what we ended up with as the final comprehensive plan, and this really allows you to see some of the detail of, for instance, agriculture conservation districts, rural conservation, heritage trails, which were outlined, office research areas that were connecting major nodes, the Waxahachie Creek along here. There's quite a bit of detail on these plans in layers, but nonetheless, this became the guiding light. The epilogue to the story was everything was going very well. We had the 500 meetings. Now it came time to do the last step and get this through the city for implementation, for the county commissioners. And a movement got started over in the eastern part of the county that they did not want regulations. And in fact, at one particularly memorable public meeting, when you have people getting up telling you that they would rather have a garbage dump next door than have this land use plan, we knew we were in very big trouble, large trouble, that we didn't know how we could recover from. We also had Bible readings. We were told how man had dominion over nature, and that our ordinance didn't count. And needless to say, it very quickly became a hot political potato. The county commissioners backed way away from it. We took the hits, that's part of the job, but the plan has been shelved. So all of this work and all of this effort and energy in order to get a county within Texas to have a land use plan is now stalled, and I feel it will eventually come back, but I am unwilling to predict when. It was a pretty stout opposition. But again, it tells you the type of things that we constantly deal with, including the nasty public hearing scenario. The next project I want to go into is the Sears Merchandise Group Home Office in Hoffman Estates. This is a project that is going to be on one of the tours for the annual meeting up in Chicago, and it was a project I was particularly involved in. I spent a year and a half commuting back and forth up to Chicago to work on this project. all because the client, Sears, decided that they needed to move out of the tower in downtown Chicago, right in the center of the loop, and head out to the suburbs out here. And they bought 788 acres out of the States. And this is what I saw the first day that I went out there, was this large field. It was a soybean field. But the thing that is particularly interesting about this is this pond up here, what looks like a pond, which is actually a wetland. This is a low spot, perhaps the field tiles failed or whatever, but water has been collecting there. And this becomes a very important part of the story of the development of this, because, in fact, wetlands, each one of these represents a wetland, and including those areas there, became really the driving force behind the development plan. This is the entire 788-acre parcel. Sears elected to put their headquarters up in this northwest corner. But what happened was, and what was really driving the client, was time. They needed this headquarters done, and they needed to move into it in fall of '92, so they are there. And every time you took away more than 10 acres of wetlands for the entire 788 acres, it was going to take a special permit. And every time you hear special permit, you read time delay. So in fact, what we did is went back through and we took only what we needed to take and left everything else, and created a large wetland mitigation bank below, where we took everything that we had to take from here, we mitigated down there at 1.5 to 1 ratio. And this made a lot of logical sense. The site was split by an elevated railroad, and this is the high point that flows down here to the railroad. So it naturally started to collect water. It was not a natural wetland. It was a wetland that had been dammed by the railroad and been created over time. And in fact, there's a very strong linkage between the Forest Preserve property to the north and another property to the south. So this worked out really very well for all of us. This is the parcelization plan, including the land uses that we ultimately came up with. And you can see that this green central area was still very important, and important set aside in that, along with the, the garden, office buildings, and things like that that were also part of the parcelization plan. The Sears would only take part of it, and the rest of it was going to be sold off to other tenants. The Sears site itself was 200 acres that they set aside. And it had to support this phenomenal program. And the reason I say phenomenal is this number right here, 1.9 million gross square feet. That is a big building. That is a lot of a square foot of a building. And then the next big number you need to look at is 4,000 on-site parking spaces. That becomes my problem of where to land this aircraft carrier from the building and where to park all the cars. Now, the thing that was most interesting about why Sears moved in the first place had to do with the fact that they had concluded that their structure, what one looks at the stock market, one could believe it, their structure in the tower no longer worked. And in fact, people would not talk to each other on the elevators. The high-rise structure did not facilitate talking. In fact, they kind of waxed eloquently back to their old days over on Holman Avenue, on the old west side, where people would walk to the cafeteria, they would meet people they hadn't seen in a while, they would visit, and they were good merchandisers back then. Ever since they've been in the tower, the retailing had been going downhill, the bean counters were on a different floor, the people bought the same dress for Rochester, New York as they did for San Diego. They had totally lost the touch of merchandising. So they felt in this case that architecture would help solve their problem. And the test is to be seen whether or not that in fact happens. This particular site plan is the site plan for the headquarters. There is the 2 million square foot building with a parking structure, a 4-story parking structure in the back, a 2-story parking structure there, and the balance of the parking occurring on site. There were, by concept and the way by design that I had laid it out, is there is a zone around the building of which there are no cars, and that is primarily the pedestrian zone. I call it the meadow. zone clearing in around the building. And then the next area out is where the cars are. And the way the parking lots are turned, the way the trees are planted in the strips in every other bay was all very much premeditated from the standpoint of if you're in this building and you're looking across the parking lot, when you're sideways like that, you don't see the parking lot the same way as when you're looking at it from the other angle. So it's a very effective screening device for the person in the building that's looking out. This became the woodland zone in here because of these rows of trees that ran continuously in belts around the site, and that was all parcel of the design concept. The other thing that you will see here are the wetlands that I talked about earlier. There's one there, there's one there, there's one that had filled up there, and then there's this big one back here. And then there are a number of, there's a pond here and a pond here, and in fact, all of that had great purpose with the simple drawing shows you because these parking lots were being drained into the wetlands of the ponds and filtered down before they ended up in this wetland. This is all good use of natural filtering systems and stormwater runoff. It was a way of really utilizing wetlands and additional ponds for that filtering. The other thing that was a lot of fun, and even though the site looked like it didn't have a lot of slope, and I know you folks at Ball State can relate to slopes, since I've been to New York, rolling terrain like we had at the University of Illinois, that this road here, which was the main entry road into the site, was really designed to have mystery, sequence, and slide down and go under the building, and you can unload under here and then go and park in the visitor parking. Because in fact, one of the primary visitors to this building are the folks that are coming to see the buyers, the vendors, the pole vendors, and maybe I'm selling lawnmowers, maybe I'm selling dresses, but I have to come and see the buyers in this building. And so I have to come, drop my stuff off, and set up a cart, and that was an important part of the sequence. And in fact, models were built, and this shows you what happens if you were at that intersection and that road comes down and goes under the building right there. And it shows you that sequence where the building is hidden from view and revealed to you slowly. And that is very important because in many cases it was in all difference to the architect, not for the building. And this is a view out the back to those, so there were two ponds, there was an upper one and a lower one that ended up with the wetland over there. Now another thing happened is we were well underway up here on the headquarters side of getting it done. There was a new development called the Town Center, which was planned. And what this was intended to be was the service area for other corporate buildings that would be coming. Restaurants, the cleaners, perhaps daycare, those kinds of things. And an outdoor park, which was part of the deal that they had come to the village of Hawkins Estates, is to have an outdoor park where they can have a 4th of July celebration. And what's interesting to see is this evolve in much the same orientation as the Sears building, which is above it, evolved with this nice little park wetland over here. It's a nice contained little parcel. And suddenly, when that got developed, we realized it wasn't working very well because there wasn't enough parking. And indeed, it looked as if, and in fact, I would argue probably were trying to be in the city underground property or underwater property for their park, and the city was not very appreciative of that. So we looked at other ways to configure that, and indeed, by splaying these roads out on each edge, we were able to pick up the wetland that used to be the edge of the site, and now picked up more developable land, and also changed the grid. So out of that came a whole series of studies which led to quick sketches of what plazas could look like that turned into models. This would be the linkage back up to the Sears site. This was kind of the headwaters of the plaza. These were some of the markers and gateways that were sketched up very quickly, turned into models. Again, this third dimensional display is always very helpful in conveying to clients your idea precisely. you get very attuned to what your plans look like with their dimension. It's something that you can see it, but you realize your client doesn't always have your facility. So anything you can do to help by sketching and things like that is always helpful in conveying your ideas. The plaza we were at was up there, and this starts to talk about the walk that we would take you the park around this wetland and exploring the aspects of the prairie, which are becoming, at this point in the evolution, a very important story about this site. And this was the amphitheater that was there on that last piece, and some early grading studies, and again, a three-dimensional model. What does it going to look like? It kind of helps explain how the grading works and the slope and things like that. All these are very, very important tools. But the last thing, and this is looks kind of like a wild and crazy drawing, which it is, but it really started to overlay the concepts for the common open space throughout the property, because that's where the big breakthrough really took place. I had been working up here on the Sears property, and I had my little clearing around the building in my woodland zone, and then my next zone out, I had what was called the meadow zone, which was all native grasses. And what happened is that idea took off, and the idea of creating prairies throughout the project, we actually convinced the client that that was the right thing to do for a number of different reasons, including stormwater runoff. You don't have to put as many pesticides, nasty things on the land. It doesn't cost as much. It's just a difficult aesthetic for a lot of people to accept and understand, because the client's first attitude was, well, there's another one of these down the road, and it's got all green and mowed lawns. Why is the guy going to come to my business park as opposed to the one down the road? And it's because you're doing sustainable design. That's why. That becomes the hook. You're doing something different. So in fact, this is what they're doing. I think it was a very unusual and very commendable move by Sears, who is not known for being non-traditional or very traditional clients, to take a step like this. But when you hear a client say, I want to do this because I want to leave something for my grandchildren, you know that you hit them where it's most important in doing a development correctly. Because this is a very typical development which would have had acres and acres of mowed lawn and so on. We did test plots, we did all kinds of things. In fact, I have a close-up here so you can see some of the richness and some of the layers of how the prairie mixes would work. We are going to have to burn. We understand that. That's why we use the margins of roads and edges and things like that, where the burns will take place without really harming the more non-native or decorative species on the inside. So there really are some very clear zones that we laid out there to do that. So that was a great leap forward, and we're actually doing quite a bit more of that in the Chicago area. The next project, I'm going to go on time here, is a project we did for Exxon, and they came to Dallas in the wake of the Exxon Valdez to relocate their corporate headquarters, and bought another about 125-acre project plot down in Las Vegas, Texas. And what is most interesting about this particular slide is the fact that they bought an awful lot of acreage in the 100-year floodplain. You begin to wonder, if you look at this particular slide of the 100-year floodplain area in Hackberry Creek, you'll see a creek here that was flowing very naturally along its way, and suddenly it comes out looking like a giant sausage here. And what this was is improved flood drainage up to this point, and the intent was that this wonderful creek also be converted into the same type of stormwater detention. And there goes the floodplain. This area right here did belong to another owner at the time, which fortunately Exxon has picked up because it really has helped us in the development of this. We did a site analysis of this area, and you will see that out of that we came up with two primary zones that would be good for development. This zone up here, this upland zone, was only 9.8 acres. And they were looking at landing not the 2 2 million square feet I was dealing with before, but only 300,000 square feet of a building for 300 cars. So I had a much lighter program to deal with. But in this particular stage, our environmental people were out on the site looking at the predominant cover through the different zones and what all was going on, and helping us determine where the building should go. What is the right place to place the building, and developing the rationale for that. And clearly at Hackberry Creek, what we ended up with is this is area of greatest species diversity and activity. So why should you allow that type of area, this is not scum on it, but why would you grade all that out for flood detention? And why wouldn't you look at placing your building in the browsed understory area as opposed to more valuable wildlife habitat? Those are the kinds of value decisions that we try to help the client make, and through graphics help them make that. What is browsed understory? That's the browser right there. It's mesquite. It really was not valuable habitat. It had been grazed over the years. So why not put a building there if you have to make those kinds of decisions? So there we were. Building goes there. We're looking at some entry possibilities, transition zones, and then Hackberry Creek, which fortunately I'm able to say that we could keep in its current configuration. Now this is as the building sits today. We are in schematics on this particular project. This right here was the zone. If I go back, I think you can, oops, uh-oh. You've got 2 slides on one there. Well, we'll go on. We're going to, it ate it. I think it popped back up. We'll go on. In this particular case, I was attempting to show really where the nose was of that ridge, where we had the 9.8 acres. So you can really see how it really coved to that line. There was a pond on the side, and that's the pond right there that we're working around, and the plug-in in a very, again, nicely sequenced road that works very well with the topography for the ceremonial entryway. So this is all very much trying to make the lightest print on the land that you can, trying to lay it in, working with the civil engineers so that the grading of the road is minimal at all times, and that's very, very important. So despite the fact we say we're being light on the land, you don't, and aren't working with the civil engineer, if he blows through there, you're in trouble. We did some pop-up sketches, again, to try and get that 3D feel for what's going on, and also to help portray vegetation and how we're dealing with a very homesteady approach to how you group where the trees are going to be. In this case, these grasses in this area are going to be mowed and maintained. These grasses in this area are going to let grow up and be much more informal, and that's acceptable to the client. Another close-up here, again, kind of the difference, a little graphic technique, more stipples versus less stipples, and some very subtle color changes. But these work very much with the client in presentations. Work very well. And again, how do you define where nature is? And using a path to help say back behind this path is wild. We're just going to take some of the underbrush out and leave it. This side forward, we're going to plant it and maintain it. Those become important decision points and also important negotiating points with the contractors. With the contractor who builds the building, likewise, you need to know where staging areas are, what he's going to do to your natural landscape when you get done. And also some quick sketches of, again, what does it look like when you look out in the background into your sculpture garden and to the natural trees in the background. And again, these quick cartoon-like sketches that are done, again, to convey to the client in the third dimension what character it is that you're talking about. And pictures are always helpful in conveying those types of things, because I know in a lot of cases it's selections of grasses. You don't know what the client is thinking, what he's going to, what he has in his mind when you're verbally just describe something, so it's best to have a picture for reference. And the very last project, and probably the most special of the bunch that I'm going to show you, is a project down in around the Houston area of Texas. And this was in a master plan community. Houston is known for that. There's numbers of them. And in fact, this one is Kingwood, which is called a livable forest. And I think you can see in a lot of cases, you know, how they pulled their parking back, left the natural vegetation in between. This is a roadway here, and tried very much to do what I call cleaned up natural, as opposed to the woodlands, which is very natural, but it comes right up to the edge of the road. It's not cleaned up completely and doesn't have the same look. They're an interesting contrast in how they developed over the years. And this is what a residential area would look like. Well, interestingly enough, Kingwood has been around for a long time. It's doing its last build-out of its subdivisions. And lo and behold, when the wetlands manual came on, the 1989 wetlands manual, and they said, holy cow, we've got a real problem. We're not going to be able to develop according to our original master plan. So what's the best thing we can do about it? And what they found out is that there are wetlands that are in various spots on here, and they said, what would happen if we were to fill those wetlands but create a giant mitigation for those? And he said that was something that could really be a very special idea. It was the first time it's been tried down there, so we took off and created a wonderful land use plan. Now, we don't always run around with our high heels and dresses on, especially the guys, but we go out in the field and we work hard. This was Dan Murphy. He's one of our environmental scientists. He's out digging a hole because when you're looking for high-rich soils, it's important that you know your soils, soil colors, your soil horizons, in order to truly classify something as a wetland. So he's out going to work, and we found wonderful things within this area, complete things in decay, things that would be interesting in telling a story if you were to convert this site to park use. Some of the facultative species for wetlands that are there, kind of the sloughs that are around, muddy water sloughs. In addition to some wonderful open water, and again, some wonderful plant species that are along the edges. All of this was part of this 400 plus acre area, which has a fairly intense legend over there. You too, when you see that up there, it's not the rock band, but it has to do with upland designations, uplands, wetland designations, and so on. I think we've got a slide which allows us to move in a little closer to see what we found out from a very quick survey. We had one guy actually out of a canoe out here looking back in the site to see what it had to offer. So we had everything in here from wet meadows to old growth, hardwood, wildlife edges, views, and things like this, and looking about the wonderful richness of this particular habitat, which would have become very high-dollar homes. We also had to look at how this particular property fit within the context of Houston. What else was there that made it a valuable habitat? That habitat isn't all by itself. So we had to look up here in the Big Thicket country to see where it was connected. And as we sneak in a little closer, we can see arboretum pieces that are around there and other parcels that the same client also owned. Here we are looking at the actual parcel itself. Battery juice. Anyway, that is there, as well as the linkage up to the thicket, the Big Thicket. And you'll see things like the Jesse Jones Center, the Park and Nature Center, the Mercer Arboretum, and things like that. So all of these were tools that we could use when we call and talk to folks like the Audubon Society and the Nature Conservancy and others who might be interested in the long-term care of the 465 acres. There we go. That'll show a little better view of the site. And again, the bullseyes that we have radiating out from the actual parcel, which is right there on that nose. And here is an overlay of the land use that we had in mind for this when we actually got down. I've got a close-up here again that lets you look at some of the things that we were looking at, significant biotic communities to preserve. And what this amounted to was a point system that we could go and negotiate with the agencies, specifically the Corps of Engineers, because if we had enough mitigation enhancement opportunities and things like that, detention basins, we can get enough points that we could convert this into a mitigation bank. So we were having a quite good time with this and with this client, really feeling like we were preserving a significant piece of property for the future, only to have the client say, and the Bush administration say, we're not going to use the 1989 wetland manual. No, too much confusion. We're going back to the 1987 manual. So again, all this work which was done has gone nowhere because they could go back and develop more of this land under the 1987 standards. So our foray into environmental management was short in this particular project, and that was too bad for a number of different reasons, but it was great fun and very good learning experience for all of us. There's another shot of that. You can see in some of these cases where the old roads would have been and so on. So, we've learned a little bit about how politics can impact your design in numbers of different ways. You've learned a little bit about the speed at which you have to work and do things. The Sears project changed continually over its lifetime. And you've learned a little bit, too, about the types of teams we have to put together in order to win work with the specialists that are involved. So with that, I open the floor for questions or whatever time says we can do. Yes, sir.
Use the soapbox for a moment and maybe talk about the challenges that you think are being faced by the ASLA. And I guess a related question might be whether or not you feel firms like JJ&R are really the kind of practice that we're going to be seeing in the future, as that kind of practice will change.
I hope so. Will be part of the future. I think what, if I have to say that there's a trend, it's this trend towards collaboration and the need for numbers of different specialists over the course of a project or doing a project. It is rare anymore that you can say the landscape architect did this and carve it out and call it doors. You can say perhaps that's the way it's always been. I just don't think that I have seen the complexity of the teams that we need today to get the job done. To do that last plan took a lot of different specialists, each one doing their job at the right time. We're fortunate enough at JJR to have those specialists on staff that can do that. I think those of us who are involved in those kinds of firms, and I know you are, multidisciplinary firms that have more than one type of resource within them, are really able often to more effectively go after and do the work in marshal forces, as opposed to if it was Debra Mitchell, landscape architect, having to go put that whole entire team together. And that can be done. It can be done actually either way. But we're seeing, I think, those firms that were perhaps just landscape architects moving and becoming more than that over time. The big firms are getting bigger. I mean, it's kind of a fairly classic cliche. The big firms are getting bigger, and the small firms stay small, and they cluster. They put their teams together as they need them. They're very flexible and quick. So both ends of the scale is where I see the practice going. But the skills that you need every day, I think at the same time, have changed dramatically from dealing with a hostile public hearing to putting proposals together and teams together, thinking strategically, dealing with environmental. I mean, this is the whole gamut of stuff that you do. And that's a challenge, to say the least. ASLA, and what I think ASLA is seeing as the challenge, I think the one that has us most concerned is that we have cast ourselves probably fairly narrowly to the private practitioners, and we really haven't acknowledged this realm that I'm talking about within ASLA as well. We haven't promoted that balance as well, and I think we need to really expand the definition of landscape architecture. I don't want to say expand the definition as much. It's always been there. It just hasn't been acknowledged. We haven't put the products out. We as a society have not dealt with it very effectively. So I think that's what our challenge is, to broaden what we're providing. There's a question there.
More or less answer.
Okay.
With that second.
Second. I've got a very exciting environmental initiative underway right now. I have been down to Mexico twice and in search of this great project. I had an environmental initiative which said that we would collaborate with a non-government organization, in this case the Nature Conservancy, and find a model project in Latin or South America and work with them on it. I have found my agency, it's called Promotional, it's in Mexico. I have found my project, which is a park and peril, which is part of the Nature Conservancy's program, 265,000 acres. It's called Ria Celestun in the Yucatan. And I was down there a week or so ago, and I only saw 28,000 flamingos. It was a very slow day. So it's what we're going to be doing for them is helping them with their eco-shelter is what they want us to come up with a model, schematic for, and that way we use as a fundraising tool. The whole idea is that this eco-shelter can be used for training of the local people so that the local people can learn to make money off the resources within the park. It's a biosphere reserve, so that they don't have to tear it down. So this is going to be our first one. So we'll talk about some of the initiatives and things we're doing. That is one of them. And we should have that one done by Chicago. I'm being very optimistic. At least the first stage of it done. So.
Specific questions about the seal project?
Yeah.
Was there a residential county?
No. And the reason that is that the town, Village of Hawkins Estates, would not allow any residential zoning within the town center. We felt it was critical because it won't work without it. It won't have life after dark. There is no residential anywhere on the property.
So, is there any that?
Did they annex residential?
The town center.
Oh, no, that is part of the parcel. That's part of the 788 acres.
Oh, it's not separate.
Not separate. No,
No residential.
no residential. We have a fire station. We have all sorts of fun things, but we have no residential. It's unfortunate. It was not our recommendation. Yeah. The Northern Illinois University has a campus there, campus building there, so you could go do your after hours education, continuing education, and things like that. There's a hotel there because most of these big corporate facilities like a hotel, so when people, execs and so on, come to visit, they have a place that they can put them. So there's a hotel. So that would be the only thing that would provide any kind of residual nightlife there. I'll be back in a second. I'll wait up here first.
Yeah, I have a question for you. I just today asking you, in my thought, that this college ought to have a minor in sustainability tonight I heard you say sustainability as a function. And it begins to sound awfully close to marketing. And I want you to explain that a little bit more, because then when I saw the 2 units for the building, at the end, are there other dimensions of sustainability that Sears is looking to have? What would you say there?
I'd say if it's a marketing play, as long as it's real and what they are doing is real, great. If they can get publicity and PR out of it, I'm not going to stand in the way. And if we're doing something right to preserve all of us long term, I would not stand in the way.
But if you say that sustainability is a holistic approach, can you isolate it to one part of the landscape and say that what
No.
you're doing is sustainable?
It is sustainable in what happens outside of the building. What happens inside the building, we're talking about recycling trash and use of materials, and even how they built the building, what they built the building with, and so on. All of those kinds of things. That was done. I mean, that was done way in front of this last thing. What you're saying, this last thing is kind of a token gesture towards sustainable landscape, and that really is all it is, a sustainable landscape. It's not a total sustainable 788-acre package. Otherwise, the roads wouldn't have or shouldn't have curves. There's lots of things that are inherent in that design. Those are not right.
So there are caveats to the word sustainable.
Yes, and in fact, most people are very comfortable with that word. I mean, I go in and I talk to maintenance services folks, and they don't even use that word.
What word do they use in the situation like this?
I don't know. They didn't say, here is our word in substitution. I haven't heard it come out of the language. But I think the whole concept of teaching these types of principles, these ecological principles, in everything that you do, whether it's a building or the land or a curb or your garbage or your stationery selection, is very important.
What do you, Mel, I'd like to take your time. Less than a year ago, the president of the AIA stood exactly where you stood and proclaims that sustainability as the thing of the 90s. This is what was happening in the 90s. And they said, she said, Susan Goldman said, Susan Maxwell said that unless the AIA did sustainability, someone else was going to do it, and they were going to take their lunch. And we are working towards the idea of multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary collaboration. What is, when your colleague is casting themselves in that sort of posture, what is the ASLA's response?
Susan and the AIA convened a group called Partners for a Sustainable Future, of which they asked us to participate. The ASLA and other groups. We went, we offered, the phone didn't ring, we tried to set up meetings with their staff to discuss these things. The guy who never went to the meeting, they told us they wanted our help in the teleconferencing, which you've probably seen advertised to be video teleconferences. I get a hard copy in my mail. I never am asked. I write a letter back finally to Susan and I say, we have these people who can help. Why isn't there some open dialogue occurring between the organizations? It is also very clear to me that the AIA, by its posture, its organizational posture, wishes to have their imprint on everything. So we have lent them John Lyon. I don't know if you know John or not. We have to help them with their environmental resource guide. We get no credit for that. John was taken by them and co-opted, and we get to buy their environmental resource guide. I just don't get a lot of sharing feeling back from that organization, which says to me we have to go our own route. And we tried, I attended, I was open, I was receptive. But when you are pushed away, denied access, then you just have to say, we've got to do the best that we can. It's unfortunate. I just think when an organization says our name has to be on everything and we don't participate, it's just not very well. Sure. Now,
This is actually related to Scott's question. When the issues of ecological sound design and sustainability become so ingrained in terms, every action, then it becomes more of a philosophy or an aesthetic. Do you think that JJR has a company way of solving the problem? I know a lot of students are sometimes fearful of going to work for a large firm because they feel like they're going to be made to solve the problem our way or no way. Is there that identity? And the other question is, do the offices, like between Ann Arbor and Dallas, share any of those philosophical or aesthetic goals?
well, there is no, I think by JJR standards, there is no design solution. There is no look, if that's what you're asking. JJR, I think, is driven by a very strong process. You're always very process-oriented. There is a certain methodology in which you go through to reach the conclusion. But the idea is also that it be responsive to the site. So I think that usually when you are responsive to the site, you don't have a look. Those always tend to go hand in hand. I think JJR, therefore, as long as you follow the process, you can design it. Your outcome is as you wish. So nobody would hold your pencil saying, well, that's not JJR. We will fault you if you kind of come in with off-the-wall ideas without going through the process to arrive at them. There's just a certain rational, it's the design process. To me, I keep saying this process is not special, you know, you do the analysis, you do the alternative, you come up with this, you end up with that. But it's amazing how often in other firms that I've worked, you just don't do that. And you say, well, this is a great design. Well, why is it a great design? You have no rationale. You have no defense. So JJR has always been very critical. So that was part A of the question. That was part B of the question. Yeah. School of Hard Knocks says you can spend an awful lot of good, earnest energy, blood, sweat, and tears on a project and have it stop, have it go nowhere, have the rules change, and I think the big lesson and the moral of that story is just stay flexible. You have to constantly be flexible. If you get too married and rigid to something, you're lost. And you don't have time for that. And as much time as all of us have spent on our respective projects in school, we have to turn those things around generally very quickly. The project I showed you on Sears, we spent 3 months coming up with the building footprint, which in the course of one meeting, which I don't think any of us going into the meeting knew this, but the client threw the building out. And so 3 months of work went out. It was Thanksgiving. It was going into Christmas. They gave us 30 days to redesign it all. And you saw a better product came out of it. It was the reason the building was thrown out, too many elevator cores, too many restrooms, too many inefficiencies that had evolved in the design. Throw it out, clean slate, start again, 30 days. That's what we have. That's the rigor. You think you have it bad in school, that's the rigor that you will have continually. That's why you need to be flexible.
I'd like to remind everybody that Deb will be on a panel tomorrow at 1 o'clock